I'm Rachel Clark. We've got Daryl with us in here as well. Say hi, Daryl.
Hello, everyone.
Daryl is my co-pilot in this session, just helping me make sure I get things recorded and watch the chat box and that kind of thing. I'm here at Appalachian State University, where we're kind of hosting the conference. And this session is just a session on really casual discussion session on sort of the journey that we're on here at Appalachian with Quality Matters. So it is a discussion session. I actually don't even have any PowerPoints. I just wanted to ask some questions and kick things off and hear what y'all's thoughts are on things. So Sandra, tell me just a little bit about where you are, if you don't mind.
Well, I'm at UNCG. I work in the School of Education.
Okay.
And we've implemented a policy if a faculty puts a new course online or if they make revisions to an existing course, then we're not using all of the Quality Matters standards, but we've identified several that they have to adhere to.
Okay. Yeah, we're kind of in the same position as well.
And so it then goes to the department head.
Do you mind holding for just a second?
Sure.
Daryl, I just tried to start the recording here. I didn't have it on automatic record, but I think because you were in the session before me, you're the person who has hosting capabilities. Do you mind turning on the record?
I have it going to a server too. So
okay.
We have it backed up. Yeah, and I will, just for peace of mind, back it up right now on the cloud too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, Sandra, go ahead.
And so the faculty member, as they develop the course, I mean, they should be looking at our standards that they have to adhere to. It has to be signed off by the department head. And then we have a workflow where it goes to, we have a department called UNCG Online, where they review it too. And so just in the School of Education, I guess some of the challenges I think we kind of struggle with is getting that buy-in or just getting people started.
Yeah. So how far, well, I'll come back around to you, but I want to hear also where Tabitha and Scott are coming in from. But I definitely want to hear how everybody got started with your process if you're using Quality Matters and you're sort of on that sort of path towards using more Quality Matters. Hi, Scott. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. Great. How are you?
Good. Tell us where you're coming from this morning.
From a point of curiosity.
What institution or I like that. We're all coming from a point of curiosity.
They're coming from Elon University, so we are not a Quality Matters school.
Right. Not Quality Matters school.
Not, no.
Okay. All right.
But curious where everyone else is coming from and the processes they've used to get started.
Right. Yeah. Same here. That's kind of why I wanted to have this discussion session. Thank you. And Tabitha, where are you coming from this morning? And feel free to use your video. Since we're kind of a small group, I think that'll work and it might help us a little bit. You don't feel pressured to if you don't want to, but. Tabitha, are you here? She may not have her microphone on too. If you're, we can't, try clicking your microphone icon. If you hover over the bottom of your screen, it should be on the far left where it has sort of a microphone icon. Do you see it there? I see your post there in the chat. Give me just a minute here. It's not working. We'll come back around to you then in just a minute. So Sandra, what about, we were just starting to talk about sort of how long you guys have been using that system, how far you are into it, sort of time-wise or years-wise. Tell us a little more about that.
In terms of, I hate to say mandate, but when we got, when it was, communication was pushed out from the provost office about just the workflow for implementing new courses or revising courses, it's probably been, I think maybe a little over a year or two.
Okay. But y'all did get a mandate from the provost's office.
Yes, we did.
All right. And how you doing there, Tabitha? Any more luck with your microphone? You want to try it again? No. Okay. How is your faculty responding to that, Sandra?
Well, I think just getting the word out is a little bit challenging. I work in the instructional technology office in School of Education. So when they come to our office for help, they find out about it. And some, I mean, you get a mix of, I mean, depending on skill level, you have some that are pretty open and receptive to the resources that we can provide. Some, it takes a little bit more coaching to get them to come along. But I mean, we just keep plugging away at it, trying to get people motivated.
Yes, about the same thing that we're doing here. I'll share a little bit of my story. So I'm fairly new here at App. I just started a couple of months ago in this role. But I have been in the English department for many years. I've been teaching business writing in the English department for more than a decade, but teaching online an awful lot. And the way that I got kind of started myself with Quality Matters was several years back, because I had been teaching online so long. I was kind of an early adopter. I went to Mary Beth McKee, who at the time was my IT consultant, and said, with all the online teaching I've been doing, and I don't really have any like formal credentials for it, what do you suggest? Where could I go to get a certification for it? And she suggested Quality Matters, the peer reviewer certification. And if y'all are familiar with sort of the step up process that they have you go through, you start with the applying the Quality Matters rubric course, or APPQMR is kind of how I've been abbreviating that. And if you get through that, you go on to the peer reviewer course, and you can become a certified peer reviewer for other people's courses, both internally and externally. And that's kind of what happened for me. I took the APPQMR in order to get through to the peer reviewer course, and got done with the peer reviewer course, and did really well in both of them. And just wondered what I could do with what I had done there to keep going with it. I was interested enough in it because of my background with teaching online that I kind of wanted to keep going. But at the time, because I was faculty, I didn't really have a role yet where I could be teaching any courses for them. And the next course that the instructors that I was taking with were suggesting was the online learning certification, or online facilitator certification. There's also a face-to-face facilitator certification, but I chose the online one just because I was curious about what that might look like if I were to teach it. So I kind of went to my director, my now director here, Tom Van Gilder, who you guys have seen this morning, and said, I know I don't have this role on campus, but would it make sense for me to go ahead and get this certification? And would y'all be able to use it down the road some? And he was very interested and put me through that course as well. And that's been about 3 years ago or so. I've been teaching online for about a decade, online and face-to-face. And I had a really nice situation where I was teaching this same course an awful lot, because it's a high demand course, mainly for the business school, although we have several programs across campus that sort of have their fingers in that pie as well. So it's a high demand course with a lot of buy-in from a lot of different programs on campus. And I was teaching 2 sections of face-to-face and 2 sections online just about every semester, and kind of experimenting with ways to do that differently, how much synchronous to put in it, how much asynchronous to put in it. And kind of found myself in this position of wanting to take this online facilitator certification course with Quality Matters, and nobody else on campus had taken that course, even among the IT consultants here. So my timing was kind of good in that I got that course as well, just about at the time that people were really starting to talk about Quality Matters on campus, and looking around at the different schools in our system who were starting to use it a lot. I don't know if y'all are aware of this, but hi, Tabitha, you made it in. Can you hear me now? don't know if she can hear me or not. Anyway, so if y'all are, I don't know if y'all are aware of it, but Charlotte is really committed to Quality Matters. They have an online course development process that they want all of their courses, their online courses, to be Quality Matters certified. So we were starting to talk about it at that time, and that was just about the time that I was finishing up that certification. And thinking, maybe my role I need to think about changing roles here on campus. And that's what happened. And so I'm now, my primary role is as an IT consultant. I do a little bit of online teaching of that business course. But we're kind of trying to figure out how to use Quality Matters. We have some buy-in on campus, but we also, of course, have some resistance to it. And we're kind of taking baby steps right now to figure out how much to use it and what ways to use it. We've had several people across campus taking the APPQMR. No one else has taken the online facilitator course yet. So we're kind of trying to figure out not just how much we want to use it, but how to start implementing it in ways that won't feel sort of overly draconian with our faculty. So that's kind of my story here. And what I think is important about Quality Matters is I do think that the having a higher goal to shoot for than maybe we began with when the world started teaching online is important. But I also am very committed to faculty feeling like they have their academic freedom, because I've been a faculty member for so long. So how to strike that balance is the thing that I'm most interested in. So that's my story. Scott, tell me about sort of what y'all are thinking about.
Sure. So one of my questions for you is, did you have anything like a checklist or anything prior to Quality Matters? So something in between, because that's what I'm hearing here is that we don't want to go fully the direction of Quality Matters, but we'd like to have some sort of checklist, rubric that we could use to make sure courses contain the items that we think they should contain.
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, so some years ago, the crew here, there are 6 of us IT consultants here now. They did take the Quality Matters rubric and sort of cherry picked from the things they felt like were the most important as they started helping people go online, having sort of at least a checklist of some kind that reflects, I would say maybe half of the standards that Quality Matters offers. I think they have 42. We can hear you now, Tabitha. Can you hear us?
Hi.
No, I'm just glad you're here. So they have 42. I think on ours we have something like 20 or 21, something like that. But we also, it's funny that you ask, because literally yesterday I spent about half the day taking another checklist that another member had been looking at developing that's even smaller, because she and I are going into the English department in a couple of weeks and offering a training for them because they're kind of behind in getting some online offerings. But we have kind of an interesting situation for them. They're the largest department that we have on campus. There's 100 faculty between, and about half of those are non-tenure track faculty and about half are tenure track. But the building that they're in is one of our largest buildings on campus, and they're renovating that building starting in the summer of 19. So a year from now, they're going to be moving 100 faculty out of that building and finding other places to put them. So part of the plan, as you can imagine, is to sort of like really ramp up this year and get some serious work going on getting some more folks online. English, I don't know how y'all are on your university campuses, but English here is fairly resistant to technology. And are y'all anywhere along the same lines as we are with that? Yes, no?
Not at Elon, no.
Not? Okay.
I'm not sure because I'm not in that department.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm very aware of it because I've been with them for so long. I'm one of, I think until the last 2 or 3 years, I was one of 5 people in the department who taught online out of 100 faculty department. So they need more. We're working on developing them more. So I'm talking too much, and I'm sorry about that. But
Rachel, may I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
So does your faculty have to take some type of required training before they can teach online?
Yeah, so that's what we're developing for English. We haven't ever had like that standard for ourselves, but English is the first department who have come to us and said, "Will you design a training that we can put our faculty through in order to say yes, you can teach online?" They're the first ones really to ask for that, and we've kind of until now been really faculty led around that. My colleague, Mary Beth McKee, and I have been designing that training for them in the last 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. But what we spent time doing yesterday was designing an even smaller sort of baby version of a Quality Matters rubric that what I would call a checklist. And this is a really long way to answer your question, Scott, to take to them that we'll sort of pilot with them and see what they think about it. And then if they like it, maybe begin to use that in gentle ways to earn faculty buy-in in other departments. But it's 12. I think she and I have got it down to 12 at this point. It's a 2-page thing. And I think we've cherry picked from the very most important things from the Quality Matters rubric to use, with our own language, of course. I think Quality Matters does some things really well, some other things not as well as I would like. But that's kind of what our process has been so far. So we are very much in the invention and exploration stage here. Does that answer your question, Scott?
It does. It does.
Okay. Where are you guys with that? Do y'all have a checklist of some kind, or?
We do for faculty who are interested in participating. So there's not a requirement on campus that faculty attend any sessions or meet with a technology consultant. So it's really, we're trying to build good relationships and goodwill with the faculty to say that, by working with us or having these things, your course will be so much better. And we're also meeting resistance as well, because I think there are a lot of faculty who feel like we're making them jump through extra hoops because they're teaching online, but you're not making me do that in my face-to-face courses. So coming up with some of the rationale behind that, I think has been challenging.
Well, I think it sounds like we think alike as far as that goes. I think it's more important to build relationships with folks on campus and help them get to the point where they want that kind of help and training. That of course then say this is what you have to do. And so I really do believe that the relationship building piece is the most important part of that. And being a new IT consultant here, but having the relationships that I do in English is really helping us right now.
Right.
Because I can also go to them and say, I have a really good friend who's been teaching in the department for 7 or 8 years, something like that. And I can go have lunch with her. I have brunch with her on Sundays often, and she's just a good friend. I can go say, what would be interesting to you? What would be helpful to you?
Right.
And I think it's absolutely key to take it that way rather than, come up with something that's going to feel very arbitrary to them.
Right.
Yeah. What about you, Tabitha? Where are you guys with this whole process?
Well, I'm at Stanley Community College, so I'm near Charlotte. So the Title III grant actually got us hooked into some Quality Matters, although the community college system is starting to have schools implement it now as well. So my department, a couple of our guys got trained, and so they are our in-house trainers.
Okay. Quality Matters trainers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we've been doing some course redesigns as part of the grant. So anyone who does the course redesign has to take a day of Quality Matters training, and then they implement it into their course. That works pretty well, but that's still, obviously a small pocket of our college. Thankfully, the university transfer program as a whole has been very supportive. And so speaking of English, actually, our English teachers are great to work with technology. thankfully. But there are pockets, around the school that there's some resistance. So for some people, it's been more mandated when their name came up than others. But there's still a bunch of instructors, and then on top of that, a bunch of adjuncts that we know may not be familiar and may not be getting involved. And that's something, as our grant's actually ending, we know the college is looking to implement some more master teacher and go toward more formal training for instructors, and definitely wants Quality Matters to be a part of that. I don't know they want it necessarily to be a blanket Quality Matters training yet.
Right.
So again, probably some highlights would be what this is probably going to look like, would be my guess.
Yeah.
But then it's the matter of how do we get strong buy-in, and how do we include our part-time faculty who often say they're left out, rightfully, and just make sure that everyone's really participating. So let me silence that. Just it's that we have some good relationships. We have our few people that we know would go above and beyond no matter what, and hopefully they'll help us get the word out, and people will follow their model. But we have a lot of people that don't want anything extra. And for my department, we're all about support, but we also don't really have the authority to make these decisions. So
yeah, that's an issue as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So kind of, we're all about in the same situation. It sounds like, whether 2-year or 4-year.
Yeah.
We've had a good bit of things that seem to be more faculty driven, and then some of it, I'm not quite sure where it comes from.
Somewhere above.
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
But it's just getting that communicated, getting a full system, getting the buy-in, and then making sure we're incorporating our part-time is going to be key.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I'm thinking about for where we go next with this is if we feel like what we do with the English department is successful and they like the checklist, I'm hoping to build an ongoing community within that department that we kind of, I guess, facilitate a little bit, stay connected with them that way, but to develop some leadership among them in their department. And I'm hoping that we'll have a few people from that group who might want to go on and take the APPQMR. I taught the APPQMR last summer for the first time here on campus, and it was an online version of, because that's the certification that I have. And we had really good buy-in from that. We had, that course was, and it's 20, as y'all probably know. We had it half full within an hour of posting the offering last summer. And then within a week, it was full. And 2 deans also took my course, which is a little bit terrifying. But really great for us too, because that, if they have taken it, then they get a sense of like what the course is like, and where to go with it. And our sense was, and mine was too, that for a first time person who's developing an online course, that's a little bit too big of a bite. I kind of came away from it, as did most of them, feeling like it's an important course. It's a great course for sort of moving forward. But I didn't feel like it was the first step for someone who's just beginning to teach online. But I feel like it's an appropriate step for someone who will have been through, we've designed a 2-day training with our English folks in a couple of weeks, for people who come through that training and want more, and maybe want to be part of the leadership team, or if there's a committee that develops out of it, maybe those folks would be the ones to put through the APPQMR and see how far they want to go with it. So I am interested in QM in the long run, because I think the value in it is, it's a set of standards, as sort of, I'm trying to think of the right word to use, but as sort of unwieldy as it can feel to some people. It's a set of standards that everyone in the country pretty much recognizes these days. And I think there's value in being able to say, eventually down the road, if you're an online instructor, my course is QM certified, because it has, some recognition everywhere you go. I think that's worth something on a LinkedIn, profile or on a CV, that kind of thing. So I want to be able to offer it to people on campus once I get them interested in it, if they're interested in it. So I'm kind of seeing online or QM certified courses as, a slow organic development that we come through after we sort of develop this more sort of baby step training session, that if English likes it, we'll do it with other departments as well. And then sort of within each department, grow leadership teams around those kinds of standards, and start putting more people through APPQMR if they want to. But I really think it's important. It's important to me that that comes from inside of them, that that's something they want to do, not something they're forced to do. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about right now. And it seems like Mary Beth and I are kind of the ones who know the most about QM here on campus. And people seem warm to that idea. But what other sort of ways are y'all thinking about using it? Are there any other organizations that you've looked at their standard setting? What else? Go ahead.
I will say, for us, we've been doing mostly self-review and then peer review. We did have 2 classes that we sent through the full quality matter review. And one of them was a fairly smooth and good overall process, and the other one, it was kind of a pain spot for that instructor. There was a lot of delay, a lot of frustration, a lot of back and forth. So I suspect the way the college is going to approach it is to keep it more internal, and just use this as a real strong foundation, and then build up our own internal experts basically, and then maybe let the individuals, if they really want to go beyond that. And of course, they could. That's how I see it playing out for us.
So it's kind of similar in a way.
And I think
were the reviews that your faculty went through, those 2, were they internal QM reviews, or were they actually sent out to QM?
The 2 were sent out. Each year we have a group that do internal, but 2 were sent out to QM.
Okay.
And
I don't think we've done any yet that have been actually sent out. We do, like you guys are, we have our own sort of shortened version of QM that we've been doing for a while, and we'll review them here.
Right.
Had that as part of a grant process that we offered to some faculty right around 2014. And I was one of those people. I got one of those grants, but it is a shortened version of the QM rubric that we're kind of using now. So, but I would like to get to the point where we can send things out externally and feel confident about it, and that it's not a pain point for faculty. It's something that they'll feel confident about, and maybe even enjoy, get something out of it. So it's not an easy thing, because I have a feeling that very few of our online courses right now would probably pass a full-on external QM review, but I would like to.
I know what that's like.
It's not that people aren't trying and aren't working. Part of our issue here is because App has such a strong history as a local teaching institution. Our roots are here, in the mountains, as sort of, it was a teaching college at the turn of the century for sort of impoverished people. And so teaching is something that we have a lot of pride around. Our College of Education is one of our strong points in the university, I think. And for a while, after sort of things exploded with online courses, there was a good body of people on campus who felt like that needed to stay our identity, was face-to-face teaching. But I think people have learned since then that we really don't necessarily have that option, because if we don't compete in that way, then I think we'll hurt ourselves in the long run. So I think that created some delay for us, and we're kind of playing catch up a little bit now. But it is, we're getting there. So even with the delay, though, we've got some really sharpshooters here and power players who really enjoy the online design process and are interested in QM and those kinds of things. So it's not that they don't want to, they do. We're just still kind of playing catch up here. What about other organizations that you guys have looked into their standard setting? What other have you found any others that you're interested in?
Not necessarily organizations. We've just been developing
Your
kind of our own, but
What does yours look like, Scott?
what's our rubric look like?
Yeah.
So I'm not primarily responsible for it, so I'll have to go back in my memory bank a little bit and think about that. But Sherry Crabb, who is one of our instructional designers here on campus, works primarily with our online faculty. We only teach online classes in the summer. So we have about 90 classes that take place in the summer, and we do not have any graduate programs or anything that are teaching online. So Sherry works with the faculty members starting in the fall, focuses primarily on the ones who are new to teaching online, and tries to do some working groups with those new faculty to kind of cohort them together through a plan. So depending on the background of the faculty, what courses they're teaching, we kind of customize the training at that point. The rubric that she's developed, she's kind of pieced together from her experience and looking around. So I would say that it probably includes some pieces of quality matters in there, but in a very small scale.
Yeah.
Because I just don't, like the resistance you're facing as well. I think that if we were to turn on all of quality matters, we'd have very few courses that would meet those standards.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think
I was gonna say this fall we're trying to incentivize things. So rather than because there's not any interest, which I don't know that I necessarily agree to require faculty to go through the training program. So we're trying to incentivize it so that the faculty who are really interested in either modifying their existing course or they're new to teaching online, get some grant funding and get some extra attention in building their courses.
What kinds of pools of money are you finding to do that with? Because that's definitely been a question and an issue for us.
So right now,
we're
we're trying to go through the summer online program and use the funds that they're getting from the students who are taking classes online this summer, or really the funds that we're trying to seek out right now.
Do you mind my asking how much you're offering faculty for that?
We were proposing for the first year faculty $2,500, and then for returning faculty to modify their courses, depending on what they want to do, somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500. But they're only eligible for that every 2 to 3 years. It's not like they can come back every year and get that funding.
Right. Okay.
That's about what we've done for the grant.
About 3,000 for a brand new.
Well, ours have been redesigns, so we've done about 1,500.
Okay.
So we're in line with what Elon's talking about doing. For the master teaching, there's been some different discussions because funding is going to be an issue moving forward, and there was some discussion of maybe some different flexibility or some time off, light and load, that sort of discussion, because we probably won't be able to necessarily do the pay moving forward for everyone.
Yeah, we're not paying folks right now. There was a piece of time for about a year to 2 years that there was a grant that you could apply for and get. But that's not part of what we offer right now. And I really believe in it. I think course design, if you want people to take it seriously and do it carefully, you need to pay them for their time to do that. But finding the funding for that is tricky. So what about you guys, Sandra? What's y'all's take on that?
A few years back in the School of Education, we did offer some incentives. Not right now, we're not able to do that, but I do recall a few years back, even before we implemented some of the components of the Quality Matters, faculty could, I don't know if it was like grant based, I don't remember the actual details, but there were incentives in place.
Okay.
And I apologize, but I have to step out to a meeting or 10:30 meeting, so I'm going to drop off the call.
Thanks for coming, Scott. It was good to see you.
Thank you. You too. Have a good day.
You too. I've got, let's see, a few other questions here. Oh, I know one question that I have, and that is, which pieces of sort of your checklist or your rubric, whatever rubric you're using right now, do you guys find faculty struggle the most with?
I would have to say accessibility.
Accessibility? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about what you guys are focusing on in your work with them around accessibility.
I just think as a whole, campus-wide, I think our faculty are in need of some more resources, more training on how to make their courses accessible. We just recently in our UNCG online, they hired an accessibility coordinator.
Okay.
So I think moving forward, I think it's going to be really helpful having that position. And I think there are some plans of, building a website that faculty can use to find tools and resources that they need. So I just think we're moving in the right direction. But, I would have to say, I feel like that's probably an area that, everyone could use some additional help with.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Yeah. And when you're working with them on accessibility, what pieces of accessibility do you think they struggle the most with? Like if you were to say one thing that you typically have to say to someone when they're designing a course, what's the one thing about accessibility you would advise them to do?
With video, I'm making sure that the videos are closed caption.
Yeah, captioning. Yeah. Okay. What about you guys, Tabitha?
I agree that accessibility seems to be an ongoing focus for us in QM and outside of it. We are in the process of transitioning our LMS system, and at the same time, we're bringing Blackboard Ally on board. So we're hoping that through more checks and more training integrated within the LMS, that will help some. But it is an ongoing process for us. Our group, captioning takes a while. Some of them are really getting on board about it, and so I think we're getting better there. There's always room for improvement, but also just getting them more in the mindset of multiple modes of delivery sometimes it is a concern, making it a little more universal. I think we have some people who this is more of a existing content or the standard way they've done it, and they don't really see the need. There hasn't been a problem, they think, so far. So just that awareness and getting them to think about multiple modes of delivery of content. For example, with the videos, are they actually narrating in a method that's going to convey more information than just saying, look at the screen and move on, because they assume everyone's seeing it, that sort of limit. And so I think they assume everyone's approaching any class, but particularly our online classes, that they don't realize there could be a barrier, even though we have had some disabled disability situations come up where, for example, we had a student who's completely blind. That sort of situation challenged a few of the instructors, but those outside of the ones who had her, I think, still were not prepared. So if we did have a student come in with a need, we would really be scrambling. So the more we can reinforce integrating that and redesigning it, I think the better.
Yeah, same. I would echo all of what you just said. And would you agree with Sandra that for you guys, accessibility is probably the number one area they struggle with, or is there another area that your faculty typically struggle with in that online course design process?
I think it is largely. I believe there's probably some general design flow and general changes that some faculty would benefit just from more knowledge and more review. Because again, it's the same class that's been there for a while and probably hasn't been updated, and so they weren't as familiar when it was first built.
Right.
But for the most part, across the board, I'd say accessibility is going to be our main point. And that actually may be very beneficial for us, though, at the same time, because I think that may be something we can explain. If we can get that message across, accessibility might be kind of our open door for getting other quality matters design principles in there. Because if they can see the value for some students, maybe we can keep expanding it into how this really applies to all students' benefit.
Yeah, I get exactly what you mean. Having any little doorway there is helpful to get the commitment to improvement, continuous improvement is valuable. So.
And I do think that's I hate to call it a buzzword, but that seems to be such an important piece that some people in leadership especially are starting to become more and more aware of. That may again help us to get the word out about quality design.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Well, we had a really small group here today. Are there any other things that you guys wanted to ask each other or talk about around, quality matters, online course design, that I'm not hitting on here? I thought it might be worthwhile to take a little break since we had a long chat before we got to this one and not a whole lot of break between. So is that all right with you guys?
Yes, I think this is great. It's good to hear, what's working well at other institutions, as well as things that are challenges. Because it's easily, you feel like, are we the only ones that are, dealing with these things? So it's good to hear from you all that looks like we have some of the same issues and strengths.
I think you're right about that. Yeah. It's easy to get siloed in our particular geographic spaces. So I was grateful to have you guys come and talk through where y'all are with things. It's always a work in progress for us. So yeah. Well, thanks for coming, y'all. And hopefully at some point we'll see y'all in person. But I really appreciate you taking time today and telling us where you're at with your stuff around that. And hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. And have a great Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.